The Big Break. It's our quest to find one small or medium-sized enterprise in the UAE worthy of a fabulous prize. $250,000 dirhams to spend on radio advertising here at the Arabian Radio Network, and free company formation, free office at Dubai Airport Free Zone. We are through to the semi-finals. Tonight and tomorrow night are semi-finals. Thursday is the final, and then that's it. One company gets the prize. The winner takes it all. Well, tonight we've got some special tasks for our remaining contestants. 3 contestants this evening. Only one of them will go through. Before we get to that, I want to welcome our judges this evening. We have 2 judges tonight. First of all, a very warm welcome back to Edward Roderick, co-chairman of Investors in the Middle East and North Africa, former Chief Executive Officer of a FTSE 250 company in the United Kingdom. Edward, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Lovely to be back, Richard.
Also with us this evening, it's my great pleasure to welcome Rabia Ataya, who is the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Bait.com. Rabia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Richard.
Now let's get on to the task. So what have they got to do this evening? Well, if our contestants win the big break, their small or medium-sized company could be on the path to greatness. Remember that with very few exceptions, big companies started out as small companies. So we want to know how they'll cope if they achieve this goal. Being the boss isn't just about big bonuses and flying on private jets. It's about weathering the bad times as well as the good, solving problems, thinking strategically, and taking tough decisions. So here is the challenge. We've asked them to come up with a turnaround strategy for a large, high-profile global company that's currently facing serious challenges. They've been given 48 hours to come up with a turnaround strategy. Our first contestant this evening, delighted to welcome him back into the Dubai Eye studio, Darren Laird of Miltech. Darren, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for being with us.
Good to see you, lads. Great to be back.
We'll get on to the scenario, the task in a second. First of all, I want to take a couple of minutes just for you to remind us about your organisation. It's been a while since you were given that opportunity. In 20, 30 seconds, tell us, what is Miltech? What does it do?
Okay, so Miltech is a company that helps commercial companies to recycle. When you throw your waste into a skip without compacting it or segregating it, you're paying for a waste collector to take away 80% air. This is bad news for your bottom line and bad news for the environment. So what we do, we put in these specialised air-operated balers, and that helps the customer to recycle their waste. It helps them to become more green, and it also helps them to obviously improve their profits in the bottom line.
And Miltech is a Scandinavian company, I think, and you're the operator here in the Middle East.
Yes, it's a Danish company, and what we are is Miltech Middle East. So we've basically been asked to set up the agencies around the Middle East using Dubai as the main hub. So last year we set up an agent in Saudi Arabia, the year before Qatar and Jordan, and next year we're looking to move into the likes of Kuwait, maybe Egypt and Turkey as well at some stage.
Very briefly, give us an indication of turnover, profitability.
Last year we made around 4.5 million dirhams.
In turnover?
In turnover, yeah.
And profitable?
We are just coming into the black this year, yeah. So,
finally, in 20, 30 seconds or so, what are you going to do? You touched on this. If you win the big break, even if you don't over the next couple of years, what's your strategy?
Well, what we're going to continue to do is to offer companies in Dubai and the Middle East a chance to do something different with their waste, a way to look at it in a way that people, aren't looking at it as a bad thing. In terms of expansion, this is obviously going to be a big part of what we do as well. We're looking to expand, as I said, into Kuwait next year, Oman, and Turkey as well.
Darren, thank you. So here's the turnaround strategy. Thomas Cook Group, the world's oldest travel company, but it's seen its shares fall more than 90% on the London Stock Exchange over the past year. It's shutting travel agency stores, selling aircraft, and it's been without a full-time chief executive since Manny Fontaine-Lenovoa left in August of last year. In November, Thomas Cook announced a rescue package with banks. Now, partly, Thomas Cook is struggling because the internet is undermining the whole travel agent business model. But Thomas Cook's biggest European rival, TUI, is performing strongly, proving that the model can work. The question is, what would you do to turn around the company? The scenario is that our judges of the board of directors, you've been invited to pitch for the job as chief executive. So I'm going to give the first question this evening to our first judge this evening, Edward Roderick of Investors.
Darren, nice to see you here. What do you believe you have that is going to help us to turn this business around?
Edward, I believe that I have a strategy here that the board will find pleasing over the next 10 minutes or the duration of this job interview, which is actually going to be something quite drastic, but at the same time something that I feel will be able to turn Thomas Cook around and not just survive, but actually flourish for the next 5 to 10 years going forward.
Rabia.
I'd love to hear the strategy.
Okay, well, Rabia, if you'd allow me, I just want to kind of start off and just give a bit of a indication of what's kind of going wrong with the industry at the moment, and then I'll just get into the strategy a little bit. So there's absolutely no doubt that the tour operator industry is in a transitional period at the moment with, as Richard mentioned before, this new type of customer that's emerging. This person who is independent, who travels quite often, who goes onto websites and can easily book their own flights and can easily book their own hotels. And of course we have a lot of competition coming from low-cost airlines as well. But this does not necessarily mean that we should be selling up the assets, making everybody redundant and liquidating. Firstly, I'd just like to say there's many reasons to remain optimistic as a tour operator. Customers still like the financial protection that we give them. The security, if we look at it last year with the case of the ash cloud in Europe, a lot of Thomas Cook's customers were well looked after that. We also have terrorist threats. We also have civil war breaking out. And the security that we give is one of the main reasons people come back to us time and time again.
What are the component elements in that business? So does it have one division or is it multiple divisions? And what's the perception of the relative profitability of each of those areas?
Okay, well, we have the two main divisions in Thomas Cook, which are obviously the tour operator industry, and we also have the financial services. It's my opinion that the financial services is inextricably linked to the tour operator business. If the tour is doing well, people are going to come to them, and they're going to use, they're going to take the travel insurance, they're going to use the currency exchange, they're going to buy their travellers' checks, etc. So they're the two main services that they actually provide. As we know, shares are down 90% on last year. So I'd say that it's through both companies that they're suffering really.
If you look at Thomas Cook as an industry, it's always been a business that gives people, if you like, through transit operations, so you can go and buy the whole package from them. So if you look at those component elements of it, the stores in the high street stores, the provision of the actual composite holidays, and then the underlying things like provision of their own airline and ownership maybe of partial hotels, is there any indication of how each of those elements are contributing towards the total profitability?
I think so, and I think what's really slowing down Thomas Cook is the stores. They still have over 600 stores, outlets, worldwide, and what that means is that they're hemorrhaging money. People are not going into the stores anymore. We've already seen that they've let go from 97 to 44 aircraft, so they're obviously struggling on getting people into the planes as well. And again, hotels, they've closed a lot of them down, so again they are struggling in this form. My idea for the strategy is that we actually get more people to go online. And as drastic as it may sound, I think we need to close up to 50 to 75% of our stores.
Rabia.
When you were looking at coming up with that strategy, what sources did you go to come up with your plan of action?
Well, in 2007, Thomas Cook done a merger with My Travel. And at the time, they let go of 150 stores. Now, that saved them £90 million. Okay, we've let go another 200 stores, outlets recently, and that brings us down. It was 950 in 2007. Now it's down to 600. As I said, I'd be looking to cut them down again to 50% to 75% of the stores, because we need savings and we need a cash injection very quickly. It's do or die at this stage.
If you look at it, the previous management of the business obviously have an intimate knowledge of that business because they're managing it on a day-to-day basis. Why do you think, with all of that knowledge and the market knowledge, that they've failed to take some of the actions that you're now suggesting?
I think it's a lot to do with the history that Thomas Cook has. It's a 170-year-old company. It's a British institution. And I think people have, they've had this idea that, we have a good business plan and we should really stick through it to the end. But I think times are changing, and I really, really think that they need to revise this strategy. Getting the stores, closing down some of the stores is one kind of factor, but I also think, again, driving people to the internet is another thing. I actually had an idea for if they decide to close down stores, rather than actually just, leave the people who are not so internet literate, or the older generation of people that don't particularly use the internet. So what I was thinking is, if they close down some of these stores, what they could do is use a field agent, basically somebody who